My name is Jake Gagne, and I'm the Jock Reynolds Fellow in Public Programs in the Education Department. Today I invite you into an 1840 lithograph by John Caspar Wilde, depicting Philadelphia's Eastern State Penitentiary. Just ahead, the artist sits with his sketchpad, flanked by two small companions. Like us, they reverently watch as he jots down the dark clouds and the twilit prison. Its massive granite walls rise 30 feet high, with chunky Gothic towers and pointed arch windows. An eerie silence pervades the scene. Wilde created this print for a portfolio of 20 Philadelphia landmarks. He began with plein air sketches and translated them into lithographs by drawing on a stone plate with a special lithographic crayon. This stone plate then served as the matrix for making copies. Look closely and you can see the strokes of Wilde's crayon in the foreground. Wilde intended to reach a mass market. He was an early adopter of lithography, which was cheaper and quicker than earlier printmaking techniques, and he boasted that his inexpensive portfolio would become an object of attraction for every center table, or for the ladies' album. But why would 19th century Americans want to look at a prison? Eastern State was no ordinary jailhouse. Built in 1829, it introduced a new paradigm for prison architecture and gave rise to transatlantic debates about criminality and punishment. This was the so-called Pennsylvania system of incarceration, rooted in Quaker and Anglican ideas about sin and repentance. Prisoners were meant to rehabilitate themselves through long-term solitary confinement and labor. At the heart of Eastern State was a wheel-shaped building with a central observation post and 7 long corridors of cells. Each cell featured a private exercise yard, plus central heating and plumbing, a feat of engineering that signaled the prison's humane intentions. Nonetheless, many observers reacted to Eastern State with ambivalence. Consider a poem by Andrew McMakin, published alongside Wilde's lithograph, narrating the arrival of a terrified new prisoner. McMakin praises Eastern State as a landmark of the law, but describes its inmates in macabre terms like victims, men of abject state, and a doomed and blighted race. McMakin's poem calls attention to what's not shown here: those who lived, toiled, and died inside Eastern State. Instead, Wilde invites us to identify with the foreground figures, far from the prison gates. And yet, as contemporary geographer and prison abolitionist Ruth Wilson Gilmore insists, prison is not a building over there, but a set of relationships that undermine rather than stabilize everyday lives everywhere. Prison reform has been on the American agenda for centuries, but reformers rarely challenge the basic assumptions behind the penitentiary. What is the difference between a harmful act and a criminal act? Who do prisons protect, and who do they hurt? Let's look again at the two children in the foreground, because I think they're crucial for understanding this image. As they study the artist's drawing, they remind me that prison is ultimately a set of ideas into which we are socialized through education and culture. And they remind me that each generation gets the chance to reimagine what may come.